am Shantae Charles. I am a wife and a mom of 4 boys under the age of 10, 8, 7, 4, and 1 years old. I am a small business owner and an entrepreneur. Today I want to talk to you about the power in a move. The power in a move. I live in North Dakota. I've been here almost 10 years. The end of February will be 10 years that I have lived in North Dakota. Minot, North Dakota to be exact. I moved here from Georgia. I lived in Georgia for 3 years before moving here to North Dakota. When I first moved here, when I first started talking about moving here, there was a lot of discouragement from various people in my life. My mom and dad were supportive, but some acquaintances and friends were not very encouraging of the thought of me moving here. The first thing they said, well, are there any black people in North Dakota? And I'm like, well, I don't know, but there's going to be 2 black people in North Dakota, and that was my husband, well, then boyfriend. I don't know if there's going to be any black people, but there'll be 2 black people here. But I came to North Dakota because I lived in Georgia for 3 years. To me, some of the worst years of my life financially. The best thing that happened to me in Georgia was the fact that I met my husband in Georgia. Other than that, they could have kept Georgia. It was just a financial struggle for me. I moved there during the recession, couldn't find a job. Jobs were very low paying, and then I just could not find a job. And I had a job, it was like useless, no point of having a job. Sometimes didn't even make $100 or what have you. But then I saw a news report one day, and they were talking about Williston, North Dakota. Now again, this was during the Great Recession, where most of America, a lot of people, hundreds of thousands of people in America were unemployed. They would have job fairs every week, different places. The people would be wrapped around the building just to get inside and find out it really wasn't a job fair. It wasn't anyone really hiring. It was schools trying to sign up people, or it was different branches of the military trying to enlist people. So jobs were few and far in between. But I saw the news report on North Dakota, and they were saying that it was plenty of jobs here, more jobs than people. And North Dakota overall, it was a very small place, large land-wise, but the towns are small, didn't have a lot of apartment buildings and housing or what have you, because it was always the communities were always small. But they showed Williston, North Dakota, and they panned the Walmart parking lot. And you can Google this. You'll probably even find another video, or old video on YouTube of it, where they panned the parking lot of Walmart, and people were literally living in their cars in the Walmart parking lot because there were not enough apartment buildings. They just did not have enough housing. People moved here to North Dakota because jobs were plentiful. You could get to North Dakota yesterday and by the next day have a job lined up and waiting for you, and a decent paying job. So found out about North Dakota, and I decided, hey, I'm going to look into it. And I looked into it, found some information. I found a recruiter, and the recruiter recruited me to work in a nursing home here in Minot, North Dakota. The nursing home moved me here. Is how I ended up moving here, because I was flat broke, busted and disgusted, didn't have any money. My boyfriend, now husband, he had some money, but not as much money as we have now. We were, struggling. We were on a struggle bus. But I found this job. They recruited me here to North Dakota. And I'm not going to lie, at first it was hard to leave my family and what I knew, but I knew I had to do it. I knew I had to move, because I did not want to be living at home with my parents forever, because by this time I had moved back home, moved in with my parents because I bought a home and I thought I was going to lose my home to foreclosure. Thank God I didn't. I was able to sell it, but that's a whole nother story for another time. But I moved to North Dakota, but prior to moving to North Dakota, when I was telling people, friends, that I was going to move here, a lot of people were like, oh, why are you going to move there? There's probably no black people there, or are there any black people there? And I'm like, oh, I don't care. I don't want to live at home with my parents forever. I got a good job. I got a job offer. They're going to pay for me to move out there. I'm moving. So we packed up our U-Haul that the company paid for, because I didn't have money to pay for a U-Haul. I packed up the U-Haul and we moved here with a little raggedy piece of car in tow on the back that broke down 2 days after we got here because it gets so cold here in North Dakota. And we moved in February. It was cold and the car just, it wasn't even worth bringing. The car wasn't even worth bringing. But we moved here. Excuse me. And life got so much better and quickly. I had a job where I could afford to pay my own rent. The rent was affordable, surprisingly, because back then, rent here in North Dakota was like the prices of California and in New York, because so many people had moved here because of the oil boom. And like 8 or 9 months before I moved here, there was a flood. There was a flood here, and a lot of apartments and housing were destroyed. So rent went through the roof. It was like unbelievable, the price of rent. It was way more than rent I had ever heard of when I lived in the Miami area. It was ridiculous. And it was like, old red shag carpet from the 60s and 70s. I just could not believe it. But thank God I found an apartment. And the apartment was really affordable. I think I paid like $6 and not $6, excuse me, $650, which was unheard of. When I would tell my coworkers how cheap my rent was, they was like, I can't believe you got an apartment for that cheap. But anyway, life started to get better. We were able to get an apartment on our own. We eventually bought a new vehicle. We paid cash for it. I eventually started my own business. I worked in a nursing home as a CNA, certified nursing assistant, for those of you who may not know what CNA stands for. And I took that skill and I transformed it into a business where I started a non-medical home care business, and I began to hire people to work for me. And my company, what we did is we helped people stay out of the nursing home. We sent caregivers into the homes of the disabled and the elderly to keep them out of the nursing home so that they remain independent. And when I did that, that drastically changed my life financially, because prior to that, I was making $12 an hour at the nursing home, which $12 an hour is not a lot of money, but when your rent is only $650. I don't know why I want to keep saying $6.50. We know that's not right. But anyway, but when your rent is $650 and you make $12 an hour, and at the time we didn't have any children, so we were doing pretty good. And the nursing home was always short staffed, so I could work overtime whenever I want. My husband, then boyfriend, he had a job, of course. So we were living pretty good. And then I started my home care business, and it allowed me to go from making $12 an hour to over 6 figures in a relatively short time. And I'm saying all this, and I wanted to get on, make this video and share my story, because moving allowed my husband and I to drastically change our lives. I mean, if we were still in Georgia, we probably would have still been struggling, because there wasn't as many opportunities in Georgia as they there probably is now. I don't know. I haven't lived in Georgia in almost 10 years. But we definitely would not have had any children, because I'm not the type of person that, no, I can't hardly take care of myself financially, I'm struggling financially, and will go and have some kids. To me, that's just selfish and irresponsible, in my opinion. You shouldn't do that. If you know you can't put food on your table and take care of yourself, why would you go and procreate and not be able to take care of your children? Now, it's one thing different if you are doing good and you fall on hard times, because we never know where life is going to take us. You may fall on hard times. That's different. But when you start off having children that you know you can't take care of, and you can't take care of yourself, to me, that's just irresponsible, selfish, and wrong. And that's how people continue a cycle of poverty from generation to generation. But anyway, when we moved here, it drastically changed our life. And I wanted to make this video to tell people, don't be afraid to move. You know, a lot of people will stay stuck and stay in poverty because of being in a familiar place. Oh, my family's there, my friends are there. Everything I know is familiar. They want to stay comfortable with what's familiar to them. But your family, they aren't able to help you financially. Everybody's struggling. Everybody's struggling financially. Nobody's getting ahead. So it just doesn't make sense. If you can move somewhere where there's more opportunities, maybe you don't even want to start your own business. But to go somewhere where there's better opportunity for a higher paying job, a better opportunity for you to go to community college or go to college or get some specialty training where it's going to be cheaper for you to do that and for you to get ahead financially in life, do it. Don't be afraid to move. My thought was always, I need to know I can make it on my own. Excuse me, because mama and daddy aren't always going to be here. And I need to know I can make it on my own without anybody to fall back on. Because one day, unfortunately, we don't want to talk about it. And it's a sad reality. But one day, our parents aren't going to be here. They're going to be gone. And you got to know how to survive on your own without anybody's help. Without being able to call home and say, oh, I need $500. Can you help me pay my rent? Can you help me pay my car note? We have to be able to survive on our own. So I always wanted to move away to know that I can make it on my own. That I didn't need my parents' support. I mean, I'm happy for their support, but I can make it financially without being dependent upon them. And I think everybody should have that. Every young person should have that thought. You can always go home. You can always visit. But you don't need to stay home. And moving is gonna make you mature. It's gonna help grow you up. Because you're gonna learn how to survive without mommy and daddy. I just don't understand people that know they are struggling. You can't hardly get by, but won't move. Especially when they've been presented with an opportunity. Or they won't even look into opportunity to see. Because when I was in Georgia, I was looking for jobs everywhere outside of Georgia. I was looking at jobs in Seattle, Arizona, anywhere. I told the Lord, I will move anywhere within reason. Now, I should have been a little more specific because I did not know he was going to move me to Minot, North Dakota. Well, sometimes with the wind chill, it gets to negative 55. But hey, nevertheless, I said, Lord, I'm willing to move anywhere within reason. I want to be able to afford to pay my rent on my own. I want to be able to take care of myself on my own and have some money left over. I want a job that's going to give me insurance and a list of other things I told the Lord that I wanted. And that came about. But it came about with me having to move someplace that I was not familiar with. And I didn't say, oh, well, it has all these things, but my family isn't there, so I'm not going to go. That would have been pretty stupid of me to say, I'm not going to move because there's nobody there that I know. Because when I came here, I didn't know anybody but my boyfriend now husband. We didn't know anybody. We only had each other. But 10 years later, we're doing great financially. And here's how funny God is. Now we have 4 kids. My parents live here. My older brother and his wife are here. My younger brother and his wife and their son is here. Actually, my older brother and 2 of his children live here. They're adults, but they live here. Who else is here? My grandmother was here for, I think, 3 years before she passed away a few years ago. My aunt, who's my mom's childhood best friend, I think they met when they was in like 9th or 10th grade. She now lives here. There's, the last time I counted, there was 16 or 18 of us now. And everybody who came here after my husband and I are doing well financially. Everyone's in their own place. Everyone has a job, making great money where they can afford to take care of themselves. We're all doing great. We're all prospering. But if I hadn't moved, who knows? Who knows where they would have been? And I'm not saying that to brag about, oh, if I didn't move here, they wouldn't have. It's not that. But God blessed me to be a blessing. They had never heard of Minot, North Dakota before. And my older brother, unfortunately, some choices he made when he was younger caused him to have some, unfortunately, even though that was years ago and he's now an adult, he's still suffering the consequences of the choices he made when he was younger. So he had some trouble with getting a good job, a decent job. But he came here to North Dakota, didn't have that problem. Got a job, paying great money, able to get his own home. I think he had, like, I don't know how many cars. Ended up having more cars than me and my husband. Like 2 cars, a truck, a boat. I told him I want to be like you when I grow up. But the power of a move. Move. Don't be afraid to move. And even if you don't think your family will follow you. Because I had no idea that one day 16, 18 people in my family would be here in North Dakota. I had no idea. My younger brother, his wife is an OBGYN. When they moved here, she had just finished her residency program. And he was like, I'm not coming there. I'm not coming to North Dakota. I'm not coming to North Dakota. I don't want to be there. They actually wanted to end up in Minnesota, but they ended up here. But when we moved here, we had no idea that this many of our family members would be here. We just knew that we needed something better and something different, and we took an opportunity. And we don't plan to stay here forever, and we always said we weren't going to stay here forever. But we're not on the struggle bus anymore. We burned our bus pass for the struggle bus. And I just wanted to make this video to let you know, don't be afraid to move. There is power in a move. Don't be afraid to go somewhere where there's more opportunity or the possibility of more opportunity. And you may say, well, there's no guarantee. But there's no guarantee in life, period. There's no guarantee that where you're at and you stay there, that things are going to change for you. Don't be afraid to move and get out of your comfort zone. You can always go home. You can always visit. Thank you. Hey, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and share this video with someone else. Until next time, thank you for watching. Don't be afraid to move. Get out your comfort zone. Move to bigger and better.